Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. In today's video we are going to be making this snow globe effect text within After Effects. This technique is totally customizable. You will be able to take this exact effect and apply it to any shape in order to get a snow globe effect. Any further resources that I need to link I will put in the description down below. So let's go ahead, jump right into it, and I'll explain more as we go. Okay, so create a new composition. I am going to name my one Snow Globe Anything. I am going 1920 by 1080, 25 frames per second, and 20 seconds long on this project. Go ahead and press OK. Cool, so the first thing that I am going to do is create a background. I want to just set the scene, I guess. So I'm going to go Layer, New Solid, and I'm just going to name this Background. Press OK, and I'm going to go to Effects and Presets, and I'm going to type in Gradient, and I'm going to drop a gradient ramp onto my solid. Right, so I have some specific colors that I am working with today. So on start color, I am just going to type in CDCFFF, and on the end color, I am going to type in F16F6F. Just going to apologize in advance for any lag that you notice on this project today. It was a little bit of an issue. Now that I have my colors, I am just going to adjust this ramp slightly, and I'm doing that by just dragging this number along. It's kind of minimal, the change, but it's basically just dragging that pink down a little bit. Cool, I am happy with that. Next I'm going to go to the text tool up the top here, and I'm going to type in snow. When I was thinking of text, I was thinking of that song, you know, let it snow, let it snow, let it snow, and you know, like a snow globe. If your screen blacks out like this, you can just see on this red bar down below, it just says you can press caps lock to refresh it. I did that quite a lot in this project today, so sorry if you pick up on that. So for my font, I am choosing Impact. For this effect, you really can, obviously you can choose any font that you want, but you want to go with something real big to make this look the way it should. Okay, so it's really important that you are happy with the text that you have right now, because I am right clicking on this and I am going create shapes from text, and this means that you cannot adjust it as a text anymore. We now have shape layers. This is going to allow us to do our cool snow globe effects. On that snow outlines layer, press Ctrl D to duplicate. Just turn off the second one and put it aside for now. We are going to use that later. And then just right click on our snow outlines layer and pre-compose. I am going to name this comp Snow Outlines Comp, and move all attributes into the new composition and press OK. Alright, go ahead and jump in there. In this composition, we are going to start creating that transparent look. So the first thing, I'm just going to go up to Fill, and I'm going to change the opacity to 23, and then on the stroke, change the stroke width to 3. I am going to change the opacity to 80. Already you can see that this opacity is lowered. If I turn off the transparency, here you can see, you know, it's not really solid white anymore. That transparency has always been off, by the way. The black background just gives the illusion of no transparency. Right, so I am adding some layer styles to this layer now. So the first one is drop shadow. I'm just going to run through very methodically the numbers that I have chosen. So we are going multiply, the opacity of 20%, distance to 10, and size to 8. Alright, go ahead, add another layer style. This time we are doing inner shadow, and again we are going multiply, we are going opacity of 23, distance 37, and size 4. Right, and last layer style, we are going to add a bevel and emboss. So make sure the style is inner bevel, the technique is chisel hard, change the depth to 419, make sure the direction is down, the size is 46, soften is 16, the angle is 210, the altitude 67. Make sure that the highlight color is white, the highlight opacity is 100, change the shadow mode to normal, the shadow color to black, and the shadow opacity to 38. Okay, so if I drag this down and switch that transparency off, you can see it's starting to look a little bit more like glass. Going back to this composition, it's definitely not solid white anymore. So I am going to go to Effects and Presets and select this CC glass, and I'm going to drop it on my Snow Outlines comp. I think it's really important to note that a lot of these numbers that I am choosing, you know, if you're going to go along and copy the numbers that I am doing, which you are welcome to if you're recreating, but a lot of this is to do with lighting and how it looks in the light. So you are going to have to take that into consideration when you are choosing to do this effect on whatever scene that you're working on at the time. Make sure that your bump map is set to the Snow Outlines comp. And in this light layer, you can choose to either use After Effects lights or the effect light. I went with effect light for this, but if you chose After Effects light, you could change it to that and it would go with whatever lights you have in your scene. I had a couple reference images that I was working from with this, and I really wanted like a super shiny globe. So all of the settings that I am going with are just bringing in that super bright highlights. So moving on to the shading, I chose about 41 for ambient, 50 for diffuse, 100 for specular, 0.040 for roughness, and 0 for metal. So I'm quite happy with this glass. Next I want to put some snow on the inside of my globe. I'm just doing this with a shape layer. Nothing too fancy going on here, just kind of making some wavy shapes. I'm going to speed through this. I feel like it's fairly self-explanatory. Up the top there you can hold down on the pen and change it to, I can't remember the name right now, but this little like V shape that I keep popping back to, and that will like change your vertexes into handles so you can drag out the curve. Don't forget to change your fill back to 100% if you were confused about why it's looking opaque, that's why. Okay, we want the snow to be inside of our globes now, so to do this we're going to drag our shape layer underneath our Snow Outlines comps. I'm renaming mine to Snow in Globe, and we are going to make use of that layer that we had just before. I'm going to rename that now from Snow Outlines to Snow Outlines for Snow in Globe. And then I'm going to change the track matte to SnowGlobe and make sure that Alpha Matte is selected. And then I'm going to click this eye to make sure that the layer is switched on. Once I did that, I just went back and just tweaked it until I was happy with it. So I'm just speeding through this real quick because you get the general idea. Once I was happy with placement, I decided to put a gradient ramp on this one again. Once again, I have some specific colors, so change the start color to pure white, and the end color I am going to type in C9979A. Once you have the color that you are happy with, you can just press OK. I changed my ramp shape to radial, and then I just dragged this blend with original up a little bit. And then I just dragged this number out a little bit as well, just adjusting the size of the ramp. Once you are happy with that, you can go back to Effects and Presets and type in Displacement. Then drag the Displacement Map effect onto our layer as well. Make sure that the displacement map layer is set to the right one, and I'm going to change this red to alpha and the green to alpha as well. Then I am going to change the max horizontal displacement to about 3. Then I am going to drag the vertical displacement down to about -9. I just felt like this added a bit of depth. It made it look kind of like a glass bottle. This was totally eyeballing it though, like I didn't use a reference for this. I would recommend you take a look at some reference images to just see what kind of effect you want to create. Then change the displacement map behavior to stretch map to fit. Once you're happy, layer new solid. We are going to create the snow particles inside the glass. So I'm going to change this name to Snow Particles in Globe. Press OK and then go to Effects and Presets and type in CC Particle World. Drag it onto our solid layer. Take the birth rate and drag it up to about 30. Then on longevity, change that to 3. Drop the producer tab down. We are going to change the Z to 58.94. Then the radius X, Y, and Z to 20. Next, drop down the physics tab. We are going to change the animation to vortex, the velocity to 8.22. Make inherent velocity -1000, gravity 0.5, resistance 4, extra 0.5, and extra angle 1 × 30. Make sure the floor position is 0.2 and the directional axes change Y to 1, and on the gravity vector change Y to 1 as well. Okay, then we are going to drop down the particle tab, and in the particle type change line to faded sphere. Then we are going to change the birth size and death size to 5, and size variation to 0, the opacity to 100, color map colors to white, and the transfer type to composite. So we've got these snow particles. The reason that I chose vortex is I wanted it to kind of have that swirling motion, like it's swirling around the globe. The problem that I noticed though with a single layer of particles is that it looked like the particles were floating between the letters, and I didn't want that. So to fix this, duplicate the snow outlines for snow and globe. Don't forget to remove the track matte. We won't need it for this at the moment. Drag that layer just underneath our snow particles. Then select those 2 layers, right click and pre-compose. I'm going to name this composition Falling Snow in Globe. Move all attributes and press OK. I've actually realized I've copied the wrong layer, so I'm going to jump into the Snow Outlines comp and copy that snow layer. Then go back to our Falling Snow in Globe comp, delete this outlines one, and paste the layer that we just copied. This layer is the one that is transparent with our layer styles on it. Sorry if that was a little confusing. Okay, select our snow outlines layer, press Ctrl C and Ctrl V. We're going to make 3 more copies of our outlines layer. Then we are going to take every layer and split it into a single letter for each layer. So I am renaming mine Snow Outlines S, N, O, and W. Then I am dropping down the contents and I am deleting the letters so that it is just a single letter for each one. You can see here it is just S on the S layer. So I am going to just run through that very quickly and get that done. When that is completed, you can Ctrl C on the particles and make 3 more copies of those as well. Then just drag our particles down. We want one above each outlines layer like this. And then on each snow particles layer, we are going to change the track matte to the appropriate letter and make sure that alpha matte is selected. So I am just going to go through each one. So the snow particles in globe next is going to go for the snow outlines N, and so on. I'm just going to keep this going at regular speed here because I know that it can be just a little bit of a trick on the eye. You can see I'm even going slow because it was confusing me. And you can see as soon as that last letter was done, we now have this look of the snow falling within the letters. I've just noticed that these layers aren't quite long enough, so I'm just going to drag these out past our composition length. You can see when I go to the beginning of this comp that the particles are not visible yet. This is because it takes some time for them to show up. You know, they've got the birth time. So just select all of your particles and drag it to the left so that they have already been born when our composition is starting. So you should have something that now looks a little something like this. Here we are in our top comp. It is looking a lot more like a snow globe now. I'm actually pretty happy with it. So next I am just going to import some photos that I just really quickly went and painted in Photoshop for this composition, and I am just going to bring them in, scale them down and place them. You can use whatever you want for the inside of your globe. Like I said, I really quickly went and painted these for some examples, but you know, you could mask out some trees off a photo, or you know, get an actual snow scene in there. You could do some really cool stuff, but for this example, this is what I have done. I was a little bit lazy, so this is just a tip that you can use if you're feeling the same. I used the warp tool on my trees to just change the look of them. You can see that some of them aren't really that pretty. I think I deleted this one. I was not into this look. But you can use your After Effects tools to your advantage with just making things look a little bit different. And it can be a lot of fun to just go through the effects panel and just drop stuff on and see. I actually go through and just grab this displacement map and I dropped it on the trees, and I felt like it made the trees look a little bit more 3D. Which I really liked that look, and I wasn't expecting it. I didn't know that was going to happen. And I also used this tint effect on all of my layers as well. You can see that these paintings that I did were not matching my color scheme. I mean, I've got a white snowman, but he is a different white from the snow that I've got down below. So all I've done is I select this eyedropper and make his white the same color as the snow underneath. And that is just a really good tip for integrating images into anything. You can use this on any kind of project. Color levels are usually the biggest giveaway on anything that's been photoshopped. You can tell they're not matching up. Usually the vibrancies of the blacks and stuff are not matching. Once I was happy with my images, I just grabbed them and dropped them under the falling snow in the globes. Then I just grabbed my pen tool and made a new shape that is going to be some snow for my snow globes to be sitting on. Once I was happy with my shape, I just went to effects and presets and got another gradient and dropped it on. Gradient ramp, not gradient wipe like I just did. Pull the gradient ramp on. Once again, the start of the ramp is just going to be pure white, and the end of the ramp I am going with the color DCA6C1. Then go ahead, press OK, and I am going to change my ramp again, just dragging along until I'm happy with it. This is obviously just a personal preference to your scene. Do whatever makes you happy. Alright, so one of the last things I'm going to do is grab my ellipse tool, and I am going to make a shadow underneath my snow globes so that it doesn't look like it is just weird and floating in nothing. Then I am going to change the fill color to E199AF. This is obviously not an entirely realistic shadow, but I was obviously going for a very pink aesthetic look today. So yeah, have fun with it. And then I'm going to add a Gaussian blur, and I'm just going to change the blur up to 16.7. Then I am just going to take that layer and drag it right underneath all of the other snow globe layers so that that is not floating over the top of them and actually looks like a shadow. That is basically it. I am going to go through and change a few things just to make sure that I am happy with it. I wasn't really happy with these little images, the saturation. Once I put them under the snow and the glass, they were a bit too unsaturated. So I just added this hue and saturation and copied it across all of the images. I think the only one was this house, which might have been more saturated than the other ones. And the last thing that I am going to do is name my layers, because I should have been doing that all along, but I got a little bit ahead of myself. So, naming my final layers, and that should be just about it. And here is my final render. I really hope this has helped you in some way. Thank you so much for watching. If you are still here, don't forget to do the likey, subscribey things. You can find more After Effects tutorials here and more Christmas winter tutorials here. Thanks for watching, everyone. See you in the next one. Bye!